Welcome to Excel 2013 Statistical Analysis video number 19. Hey, if you want to download this workbook and follow along, click on the link below the video. Hey, in this video, we got to talk about percentiles and quartiles, and even about percentile rank and rank. Hey, we're still talking location. And here's our first example for percentile. Now imagine you're trying to get a job, and you went ahead and took the test that the employer administered, and you got an 89. The company policy says that anybody that's above the 75th percentile gets to come in for another interview. Well, here's all the scores. So we, with location and percentile, need to calculate what that marker is that divides the set. 75% below, 25% above. Then you can figure if your score is high enough to be above the 75th percentile. Again, this is all about location in a data set. All right, so we're going to do percentile. Now, here's the thing about percentile. There is not just one way to calculate percentile. In fact, there's a few ways. There are estimates that will allow us to divide the set. The formula that we're going to use, and the author uses, and the Excel function uses, is we take the percentage, that's 75%, and we multiply it by the count plus 1. Now, that'll just give us the position, right? 1 to 18, somewhere in there. And then once we find that position, then we can calculate the actual marker. Now, we're going to do it longhand first, and then we'll see the built-in function. So you ready? I'm going to count equals count. And I'm counting numbers, so I'm using count. Highlight the numbers and enter. Now we can do our formula for position in the list. Hey, the percentile percentage times, in parentheses, n plus 1, close parentheses. Control Enter, 14.25. Here's the values below the marker and the values above the marker. So 14.25 is positionally right in between 14 and 15. It's exactly 1/4 of the way through. Over here is the marker, or the actual score. So it's somewhere between 88 and 91. What is the exact number? We see that the difference is 3 points. So it's 1/4 of the way from 88 towards 91. So here's how we'll calculate it. First, let's calculate the difference between the 14th position and 15th position equals 91 minus 88. That'll give us 3. So from 88, we're not going all the way through to 91. 3, just part of that. Well, what part? It's that 0.25. So here I'm going to use a function, and we're going to use the mod function. What does the mod do? It returns a remainder after a number's been divided. We'll check this out. Number, that's the numerator. That's the thing we're going to divide, and we're going to divide by 1. Hey, well, what's 14 divided by 1? It's 14 with a remainder of 0.25. That's just a fancy way to get that decimal with the formula. Now, we can simply take the whole distance, multiply it by 0.25, or 1/4, and we get the amount we're going to add to 88. So it's 0.75. So 88 plus 0.75, that's the marker. So our final step is equals the 14th position plus that extra little bit we need to add to 88 to get to that 14th 0.25 position. Enter. So there it is. 88.75 is the 75th percentile marker. It divides the set into 1, 2 pieces. 75% of the values are below 88.75 and 25% above. Did you make the cut? Man, barely. You're just right above that 75th percentile marker. Now, luckily, there's a built-in function, so we don't have to do this. The business, when they decide 75th percentile for inviting people back in for an interview, they don't do all these steps. They use equals percentile. Now, there's a .EXC, which uses this algorithm right here. A .INC, which uses a slightly different algorithm. Again, I mentioned that these are estimates. Then there's different ways to do percentiles. We'll look into the .INC function later. The one we're going to use is this .EXC. the whole array, comma, and the K is our percentage. 75th percentile, percentile.exe delivers the marker. That is the hurdle for you getting invited back in. And did you get invited? Yes, you did. Now, there's something really important about percentile. If you look over here at the data set, remember, it divides it into two pieces. Approximately 75% of the values are below 88.75, and approximately 25% are above our marker. Now, the reason that's important is because these are estimates, and there are different ways to calculate percentiles. So when you describe what a percentile does, we say, hey, approximately 75% of the values are below and approximately 25% above. To show you that, in fact, it is an estimate, there are exactly 14 values. So I could see the count down here. So I'm going to come up here. Equals 14 divided by the total of 18 equals 0.777. So this is an approximation. Now, percentile divides this data set into two pieces. We next want to talk about quartile. If you have 1, 2, and 3 quartiles, 25, 50, and 75%. Or for quartiles, we're going to use 1, 2, 3. Those quartiles will divide the set into 4 pieces. Now, just to show you, we'll do all 4 pieces in a little while. But just to show you that quartile 3 is exactly the same as percentile 75, let's go ahead and try quartile.exc. There's an INC also, and we'll look at that later. Array, that's all of them. And then comma, it asks for the quartile. Boom. Third, Control-Enter, gives me the exact same 88.75. Now, one other important function, percentile rank. Hey, you want to know what your actual percentage is, or percentile rank. So here we can use equals percentile. And notice there's 2 of them, just like there are for the other ones. .exe tab, I highlight the entire array, comma, your particular value is the x. Significance tells you how many decimals to round it to. If we leave it out, it will round to 2 positions. Close parentheses. So 0.754. Yeah, you are just barely above. So 75.4%. That is your percentile rank. Now let's go down, and I want to specifically talk about the median. So if the company policy was 50%, well, we absolutely could use percentile.exe. There's the whole array, comma, and there's the 50%. Boom, 50% above, 50% below. Notice this 80 actually. Notice there's 9, so 9 divided by 8. In this case, if we did equals 9 divided by 18, boom, you get exactly 0.5. So sometimes it's exactly right on. Other times it's a close approximation. Hey, if we did the median function of all of these, do you think it'd give us exactly the same value? You betcha it would, the one in the middle. In this case, there's an even number, so it averaged the middle 2. If we were to do that explicitly like we did when we did median, we'd see that that, in fact, is the case. So 50 percentile is the median. Now here's quartile. We want to divide the set into 4 pieces. Notice 4 pieces means we have 3 markers. So equals quartile. And I'm going to highlight the whole range. And this time I'm going to hit F4 to lock it, comma, and I'm going to put my quartile. Notice it gives you a little drop down here. And it even reminds you that quartiles are the same as percentiles, 25th, 50th, and 75th. I'm going to include that. Control-Enter, and copy it down. So the set would be divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So 67.25 is right there. 80 is right there. And the 88.75 is right there. So it divides it into 4 pieces. Now, we are not limited with percentiles like we are with quartiles. Quartiles are going to be 25th, 50th, and 75th. If we wanted to do quintiles, that means divide it into 5 pieces. We can absolutely do that. F4 to lock it, comma, and I'm going to include 0.2, 0.4, etc. Control-Enter, and copy it down. So we've divided it into 5 pieces with 4 markers. We could do deciles. Highlight the whole set, F4, comma, and get the 0.1. Control-Enter. Double-click and send it down. Now here on a small data set like that, we wouldn't be divided it into 10 parts like this. But on a large data set, you will see that. Now let's go down and look at percentile rank for the whole data set. So oftentimes you have a set and you have them ranked and from smallest to biggest, but you want to know the percentile rank. No problem. I'm going to arrow, and it would be PERCENTILERANK.EXC. Highlight the whole array. F4 because we're going to lock it, comma the K. Hey, I'm going to rank all of the values. I'm going to assume the default. By the way, anytime you see those square brackets in an argument screen tip like this, it means if you know the default, you can leave that argument out. And we do. It's 2. We want that, so we leave it out. Control-Enter and copy it down. So all the way down, including 88 and 88, which get exactly the percentile rank. It means at 88, approximately 68.4% are below, and 31.6 are above. All right, now we want to go look at our next example. We want to talk about a different type of percentile calculation. We're doing EXC, which means it will exclude 1 and a 0, where 1 is the max and 0 is the min. Percentile.INC will include 1 and 0. That means 100% and 0%. Now, the reason that the INC is nice sometimes is even though it has a different calculation, it will get you the min and the max if you put a 1 and a 0. Quartile also has a function where it has the extension .inc. So let's go ahead and see the difference. Again, here's the algorithm over to the side here. If you want to see how to calculate, there it is. And I also have a video that goes through the calculations longhand. But here we're just going to see that equals percentile.exe. Here's the whole array, comma, and there's the 75th percentile. So the marker, as we did before, is 88.75. And now if we use the inclusive or include 0 and 1, we're going to highlight the whole range and comma 75th percentile. And boom, the marker is a little bit different because it calculates a little bit differently. But here, it's very nice sometimes because you want to see the max and the min. So we'll use equals, and we're going to use the inclusive here. So I'm going to get the whole array. F4 to lock it. Now notice if I comma to get to the K, I can't quite use my mouse. Luckily, I can use my arrow keys. If for some reason you can't do your arrow and the cell reference is under the formula, you can click above or to the side and then use your arrows. All right, Control-Enter. Oh, it got the min. Copy it down. It got the max. So we can use 0, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and 1. If you were to use the .exc and highlight F4, comma, arrow key to get right to that 0, it's going to give you a num arrow. It's not going to have any problem with the percentages, but the 1 and the 0 are excluded. We can also use this with quartile. So quartile.inc, highlight, F4, comma. And what's nice about quartile.inc, if you don't mind this algorithm, which is fine, they're pretty darn close, especially on big data sets, which we will look at in a second. The nice thing here is this is called the 5-number summary. Control-Enter and copy it down. When you have the min, quartile 1, 2, and 3, and the max, it's called a 5-number summary. And you can see lots of information. You know that the range goes from 12 to 100. In the middle 50% of the values are between 69.75 and 80. You have the min, the max, and so on. So that's kind of nice sometimes. Now let's go look at a big data set and notice that on big data sets, they'll actually get really close, if not exactly the same result. Equals PER, and we'll do exclusive. Control Shift down arrow F4, comma, and I'm going to left arrow, and watch this. I'm going to cheat Control Enter and copy it down. And then I'm going to put it in edit mode and highlight this and type INC. All right, so, we did exclude 0 and 1, include 0 and 1, exactly the same marker, dividing the set approximately 75% below, approximately 25% above. We could do the same thing for quartile. Control Shift down arrow F4, comma, left arrow, Control Enter, and copy it down. F2 and change it to INC. Control Enter. Exactly the same. Percentile rank, sure, we can do that too. So I'm going to get the exclusive, highlight the whole array, Control Shift down arrow F4, comma, and we want to rank. We got a score of 74, right? Close parentheses, Control Enter. Oh, so if you got 74 points on this entrance exam, you sit at the 68.6 percentile. And I'm going to copy this down and change this to INC. Oh, so there's slight differences. But on a large data set, when you have about 500 records here, they're pretty darn similar. Now, we got to go over to the rank sheet. We got to talk about a couple more topics. Hey, we've already done percentile rank, but sometimes you want a formula or function to actually rank who was 1, who was 2, who was 3. So we can use rank equivalent and rank average. Equals rank, and you notice that there's an average and an equivalent. Equivalent means if there's a tie, like somebody ties for 4th place, they'll both get 4. Average means it will take position 4 and 5 and give them both 4.5. So we're going to use equivalent. Hey, wait a second. Here's that compatibility function with the yellow triangle. That means rank is exactly the same as rank.EQ. Again, this dot convention came in 2010. All right, so the number, that's the number you want to rank. And then ref, that's all of the, a reference, a cell reference, a range. I wish they'd put array or range or something like that. F4 to lock that. But that ref argument means all of the values. You want to compare this particular item against and rank. And then comma, we can rank descending, biggest gets first, or ascending, the smallest will get first. I'm going to choose a 0, close parentheses, Control Enter, double click and send it down. And so who had the highest sales ranked first? There was Chris. Then there was Tina. Then there was Herb. And look at this. Here's Chin and Choi. They ranked exactly the same. They got exactly the same sales. So 4. And then I'm looking for the 5. There's no 5. Oh, yeah, because the 5 was used up here, so it jumps to 6. If you wanted to give both of these people 4 plus 5 divided by 2, you could use rank average. Tab. There's the value we want to rank, comma, the reference. Highlight all of them. F4. And then we're doing first is biggest, so I put a 0, close parentheses, Control Enter, and copy it down. And we can see that they both get 4.5. Hey, percentile rank, a lot of times when you're ranking, you also want to see the percentile ranks. And I'm going to try PERCENTILERANK.INC so that 100% will show up and 0%. So I'm going to highlight the entire array, F4 to lock it, comma, and the particular value, the X, that's the particular value. Control Enter, and double click and send it down. We can see that Chris has the max. 100% means the max. 0% means min. Now I want to show you one last tool that will very quickly rank and give you percentile rank for a set of numbers. If we remember data analysis group, data analysis, let's go ahead and click. And we used descriptive statistics last time. Now we're going to try the rank and percentile. Click OK. We need to say where the numbers are. I'm going to include the field name at the top. Columns, because our numbers are in columns. Labels in the first row, because we have our field name. Output range, I'm going to select like I1, click OK. Wow, that was fast. There's the position it came from. There's the actual value sorted, ranked, and percentile rank. Now, the only downside to this is if your source data changes, boom, it's actually Sue who got 100%. That is not linked to the data. I'm going to Control Z on that. All right. So in this video, we saw how to use rank.EQ and rank.AVE and percentile rank. We also saw how to do percentiles using percentile.EXC, QUARTILE.EXC. We even saw PERCENTILE.INC and QUARTILE.INC. All right, next video, we'll start talking about variability or dispersion and talk about one of the more amazing statistical calculations, the standard deviation. All right, we'll see you next video.